free.
Yeah, it seemed pretty basic to me. I feel like.
Good evening. I hereby call to order this regular meeting,
okay.
May 21st, 2026, regular meeting of the Farmington Hills
Speak up
Planning
just
Commission.
and,
Time is
and if you need-
7:30.
Yeah, no need to commit to.
Welcome to commissioners, staff, applicants, and members of the public. The Planning Commission is responsible for reviewing development proposals and planning matters in accordance with the city's ordinances and master planning goals. We appreciate everyone's participation in tonight's meeting. Before we begin tonight's agenda, I would like to review a few meeting procedures. Please silence or turn off all cell phones or other electronic devices. At designated times, members of the public will have the opportunity to address the commission. The chair will announce when the public comment period is open. Unless an agenda item is scheduled for a public hearing, all public comments should be made during the general public comment period at the end of the meeting. When addressing the commission, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and speak clearly into the microphone. Comments should be directed to the chair and limited to the matter currently before the commission. Comments are typically limited to 3 minutes per speaker to ensure everyone has an opportunity to be heard. We ask that everyone remain respectful and courteous so all viewpoints may be heard. Again, welcome and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. At this time, I will ask the secretary to call the roll.
Commissioner Treflet?
Here.
Stimson?
Here.
Grant?
Here.
Ware? Here. Conigan?
Here.
Brickner?
Here.
Manti?
Here.
And Chair Lindquist.
Here. All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor of approving the agenda, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Was that Steve?
Yep, and John second.
John, okay.
It'll be formidable at the center of the table.
Sorry about that, Cheryl. So we'll move on to the first item on our regular meeting agenda. We have only one item today, which is a site plan approval.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Shall I get started?
Yes.
All right. My name is Mike Auerbach with Carlisle Wortman Associates, the city's planning consultants. And this is a site plan proposal for property located at the northeast of the Drake Road and Grand River Ave intersection. The site is roughly 6.8 acres in area and was developed and was previously in use as an auto dealership with 2 principal buildings and some interior sales space, service bays, and storage areas, et cetera. What the applicant's proposing is to reoccupy the larger of the 2 buildings on site and operate it as to what they refer to as a customer experience center. So the user will be Carvana, and under their business model, they conduct their sales primarily online, conduct auto sales, that is, online. Based on the narrative they submitted along with their site plan application, they explained that their sales activity primarily takes place through their website. Customers browse the available vehicles for sale online, select a vehicle, complete initial financing and credit-related paperwork, and then once all those steps are complete, that vehicle will be delivered to the Carvana Experience Center and where a customer would pick it up. And in addition to that activity, there'll also be some minor auto detailing and receiving trade-ins or returns on site. Next slide, please. So based on the project narrative, the applicant gives a little more description about their operations. They anticipate that roughly 80 to 100 inventory vehicles would be stored on site at most at a given time. They've given their hours of operations. The facility will operate between 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. On weekdays, I believe, but those hours don't necessarily respond to when they'll be open to the public. They indicate that those times will vary. And again, it sounds like the predominant customer visits to the site will be people who already purchased a vehicle and are coming to pick it up. The applicants explained there'll be 30 to 42 staff on site and 3 managers. And again, the on-site vehicle detailing activity will just consist of cleaning, rinsing, inspection activities, and minor equipment adjustments. They've indicated there'll be no more intensive repair operations on site. And as I mentioned, this was previously a traditional auto dealership with an on-site inventory where customers would browse that inventory on site and select a vehicle for purchase. There's the two existing buildings. The larger of the two is 28,600 approximately square feet in floor area, and that includes the showroom I mentioned, along with a number of auto service bays, and at least the previous operation included a wash rack, or a washing area as well. The eastern building is smaller at around 7,500 square feet, and that was previously used as office, storage, and additional service space. As you'll notice, the northern portion of the site, there's a section that kind of juts out to the north. That's gravel surface. There's a small telecommunications building there that is in use and will remain. So this property is zoned B3 General Business District. The portion, the property to the north of the site is B3, but the northernmost portion of the site abuts what is L1 light industrial zoning, which is also the zoning to the east. The uses to the east of the site are a number of different commercial uses. There's, I believe, indoor recreation facility, a dance school, and also some separate smaller commercial establishments. To the northwest, there is a stormwater retention pond that serves not only the subject site, but a number of other adjacent properties. And then immediately to the west, there on the other property zone B3, there's a fast food restaurant and McDonald's. And the south is the Grand River right-of-way and the city of Farmington. So as proposed, the site configuration will be largely unchanged. The only modifications will be the addition of a number of parking lot islands around the perimeter of the buildings that'll both define the parking bays and drive aisles within the site. There'll also be a number of parking bays in a sort of landscaped area along the western lot line, which will add a bit of separation between the parking and the lot line itself and accommodate additional landscaping. Otherwise, the site is accessible by one divided driveway from Grand River and existing cross-access drive to the McDonald's property on the southern portion of the site. There's also a cross-access easement along the western lot line to the northern end of the lot line. It doesn't appear to be traveled, but there are rights an adjacent property owner has to access across the site. There's also another access easement, which you can see outlined from the Grand River driveway that extends up to the telecommunications building in the northern end of the site. The next slide, please. So the primary consideration for the Planning Commission tonight is a determination about the proposed use. So there are a number of automotive sales-related use categories permitted in the B3 district. Those include new or used car sales room, showroom, or office when the main use is carried on within a building with an open-air display of vehicles as an accessory. The other category is an outdoor space for the sales or rental of new or used motor vehicles, trailers, mobile homes, boats, recreational vehicles, and other similar products. So just to be clear, as far as we understand, those other items aren't being offered for sale. It'll just be motor vehicles. But the question is whether the proposal fits into one of those use categories. And in our assessment and staff's assessment, it does differ from those traditional auto sales establishment in a number of ways. The first is that in a traditional auto sales establishment, the inventory is there for customers to browse on site. The shopping takes place on site, as does the actual sales itself. In the Carvana model, all that takes place online, and sales are arranged online, and it's not necessarily location specific, at least for the majority of their operations. And again, they can clarify that, but that's based on their narrative. So the sales itself are kind of location independent. And it's only after a sale will a vehicle be delivered to the site for customer pickup. Similarly, any trade-in would be dropped off at the site by the customer and taken away by Carvana. So in our assessment, it's that distinction that makes the use somewhat different from a traditional auto sales establishment. However, it's in the Planning Commission's determination to make that assessment. And further, there is another use category in the B3 district that allows for other commercial uses that are of a similar and no more objectionable character than other uses permitted in the district. So even if the commission finds that this is not a traditional auto sales establishment, you could find that it fits into that other commercial use category. And in order to make that evaluation, the primary considerations are, will its land use impacts be comparable to other commercial uses, and in particular, those other auto sales related uses? So in making that an assessment, you could consider, will the typical number of vehicles being stored on site or any associated outdoor storage be different from a conventional sales establishment? Will there be other operations carried out on site that are or aren't similar to a traditional dealership? The sales activity in our assessment is a primary difference, that there won't be that regular sales and customer visits, but you could find that functionally the difference isn't that significant. Other items you can consider, as I mentioned, traffic, trip generation, but also things like noise, lighting, et cetera, any of those land use characteristics that we'd consider for any land use and evaluating any auto dealership. So next slide, please. So, back one, actually. Thank you. So in addition to that, the applicant's given a description of characteristics of their use. If you do determine that the use is falls into one of the auto sales categories or is of that similar or other commercial use category, you could, if you deem necessary, impose conditions as part of an approval to ensure that the use remains consistent with those findings. One of the primary items we discussed in our review is a condition to ensure that there aren't more intensive auto repair activities that take place on site over time. We bring that up because the facility, or the previous dealership, did have auto repair stalls, and according to the state of Michigan underground tank inventory assessment, there were some registered underground tanks associated with auto repair on site. The applicants indicated those will be managed, closed, and removed in accordance with state requirements, and that there won't be any more intensive repair. But just given that those facilities were present on site, a condition could be that that activity is not allowed. In order to do so, it'd require a special land use review and a separate consideration from the proposal in front of you. In addition to that, we also suggest some conditions related to the number of vehicles stored on site. You could discuss this with the applicant, but just to ensure that there's not an overflow or more storage than their proposal suggests, you could include a condition that limits it to the amount they describe, or specify that no outdoor storage is permitted in required setbacks or off-site, and that would ensure compliance with existing ordinance requirements. Thank you. As far as the parking lot configuration, the site plan designates how the different parking spaces will be used. It shows areas that will be dedicated for customer parking adjacent to the larger building, also employee parking areas, and the remainder of the spaces would be used for inventory. And that distinction is important because sales inventory cannot be displayed within a required setback. And in this particular case, the existing parking spaces on site would encroach into a side yard setback. So the additional landscape islands proposed along the western lot line will add that additional required separation. But all told, that's why it's important that the use of the parking spaces be designated. So the number of required spaces is yet to be determined based on the information that's been provided so far. The requirement is for a dealership, or is that one space for each 100 square foot of usable floor area. For sales room, that one space per that 300 feet is provided, or that 3 spaces for each auto service stall be provided, whichever number is greater. So the floor plans don't detail the number of service stalls on site, so that number is still pending. But given what we'd consider this, or what is most equivalent to the sales area, which we consider the space where there'll be actual office or computer terminals where staff will provide online support to customers. We counted that floor area towards the requirement, and based on that, there would be 49 spaces required. So regardless, there are roughly 302 spaces on site. So however the requirement's calculated, we don't anticipate there'll be an issue meeting the requirement. And I'd also note that there are 15 spaces in the northeast corner of the site that will be extended and dedicated for single car haulers. And that could be something that you ask the commission to, or I mean the applicant to explain a little more about what that use involved and the number of those vehicles that'll be stored on site. The next slide, please. So a determination the commission will need to make is whether a loading space may be permitted in the side yard. The ordinance requires loading spaces to be provided in a rear yard, but the commission has the discretion to allow them in a side yard if there are practical limitations that prevent it from being located in a rear yard, and that it can be in a rear yard as long as it's adequately screened. So the proposed location is in between the 2 existing buildings on site and is set back fairly significantly from the Grand River right-of-way. So from that standpoint, it does appear to at least be sufficiently screened and set back. You could determine otherwise. What's shown on the screen is a turning template for a tractor-trailer vehicle and shows how a tractor-trailer would enter the site, turn around in the gravel area, and then drive back down to the loading area between the 2 buildings. It may be the case that in order to make the turn to get into the rear yard behind the larger of the 2 buildings may be a little tight, but that could be something you ask the applicant to clarify if you deem necessary. Next slide, please. There is a requirement for a pedestrian connection to be provided from the right-of-way. That's not shown on the plan. And again, the ordinance allows the commission to waive that requirement if there are practicality issues with providing the connection, or if you find that the walkway wouldn't be utilized. In terms of site landscaping, the ordinance requirements are generally met. As I mentioned, a number of new parking lot islands will be proposed around the building perimeters. They'll be planted with canopy trees. In total, 57 trees would be required on site, and 58 are provided, including 8 existing trees. The applicants have also provided smaller shrub vegetation along the Grand River right-of-way, and the proposed varieties meet the ordinance's height and spacing requirements. They've also provided a inventory of existing trees and indicate that 7 will be removed. None of those trees qualify as landmark trees or trees that need to be replaced, and they'll also be removing some invasive species, which is a net positive. In terms of lighting, there'll be 10 building-mounted fixtures, varying in height from 10 to 22 feet, and the applicants will utilize existing light poles on the site, of which there's 22, and fixtures will be mounted between 22 and 26 feet in height. Those meet the ordinance's maximum height requirements. However, there are some deviations and additional updates about the lighting plan that need to be submitted. The first deviation that the commission could waive is that the illumination exceeds the maximum level permitted along the lot line in several locations. On On the western lot line, the max is approximately 4.8 foot candles. To the south, there are spots where it's 1.8, and then to the east, there's a spot where it's 3.2 foot candles. So the maximum permitted by the ordinance is 0.3 foot candles, but the commission can allow additional greater illumination if it provides a public safety benefit. Other than that, we note some additional lighting details that will need to be submitted with an updated lighting plan. As far as exterior materials, the ordinance requires any existing building to be brought into compliance with the ordinance's design requirements if there are any exterior facade modifications beyond just a one-for-one replacement with, of windows and doors. So the applicant's narrative indicates that, it states that they'll be performing a facelift, but there's no more description than that. So they'll need to clarify the extent of any exterior modifications they're making. If it is limited to just replacement of windows and doors, then the buildings won't need to be brought into compliance. Otherwise, though, they would be, and at least based on the existing materials, it does appear that some waivers would be required. At minimum, those waivers would need to be from the exterior material requirements for facades facing public rights-of-way, also the extent that there are visible windows and doors or fenestration visible from the right-of-way as well. So those, if the design requirements are triggered, those would be, that would be an evaluation the commission would have to make, but we don't have sufficient detail about the elevations in order to evaluate any necessary waivers tonight. The site is also located in one of the special planning areas where public art would be required for projects involving a cost of $2 million or greater. The applicants have provided an estimate that their site improvements will only be approximately $400,000. That was a part of their narrative, so the public art would not be required. So in summary, there's a number of determinations the commission will need to make before taking action on the proposed site plan. The first of which is whether the use itself is permitted under an existing category in the B3 district, or if it meets, or if it's similar enough to qualify under this other commercial use of a similar and no more objectionable character category. And again, the considerations have to do with just the land use characteristics of the proposed operation. That's the number of vehicles being stored on site, traffic, both vehicle and potential customer traffic, as well as any noise, lighting, et cetera, other potential impacts of their operations. In addition to that, there's also some waivers to assess. The first is whether the loading space could be permitted in the side yard. The next is whether illumination levels can exceed that 0.3 foot candles along the property line. And then lastly, whether the pedestrian connection requirement can be waived. And again, if the commission does approve the preliminary site plan, we also recommend that the commission consider some conditions of approval to ensure that the proposal operates in a manner that's compliant with the commission's findings about the use and also any applicable ordinance requirements. And that sums up our review. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Amanti.
Thank you. I'd like to ask about the illumination.
Yes.
So evidently, there's been some kind of analysis that shows that the illumination would be, that would, off the property would exceed what our requirements are, right?
Correct.
No one's measured it. Correct.
Yep.
Okay. If we say, no, you don't get an exemption, does someone go out and measure it afterwards?
The enforcement officer could, yes.
You say could. The enforcement officers generally don't work at night, and that enforcement only occurs if someone complains.
That's correct.
That's sort of true, right?
We could also ask staff if that would be something done as part of a zoning compliance inspection.
So this place has been closed a while, and I do not know that it's the existing light now, but in the past, light from that property did a very good job of illuminating the side of the apartments right across the street. And I want to make sure that those residents are not impacted. Now, I looked at those lights, and I do not believe those are the lights that I saw in the past that did that, okay? But so that leads to, okay, what would we be asking them to do if we wanted them to meet the requirements? And I'll say, I'm holding my hands like this because I'm the lights. The lights are not horizontal. They're only a little bit elevated. I could be wrong. We'll say you're the expert. Are we really just asking them to turn a screw, lower them, and tighten it?
So if you determine that the waiver won't be granted, then you could simply leave it as they'll need to submit an updated lighting plan that demonstrates compliance with the ordinance. A separate question could be whether the fixtures will be fully shielded as required and how they'll be angled. The specs don't appear to include any sort of arm where they could be adjusted.
Well, I'm just looking at them and it looks like.
The
there's
current
and there
lights
is no
are-
shielding.
The current fixtures will be replaced. They do show
Well-
new fixtures in the plan.
Okay. And all new fixtures should be downlit and shielded according to our regulations?
Yes.
And you're asking us if we want to exempt them from downlit and shielding?
No.
Even with the lit and shielding, the analysis shows that the light would be excessive off-site. Is that true?
At the property line. So it
the
shows that it would exceed the limit at the property line and slightly beyond. We can't, so the fixtures are fully shielded, so at the very least, the luminaires themselves shouldn't be visible from off-site, but exactly how much light will be cast just beyond the property line is not shown on the photometric plan.
Thank you for enlightening me.
Ms. Ware?
So this is a land use contract, or land use request. But I think I need some education as to why it is before us if it's a car dealership going to a car dealership. Is that normal?
Well, that's the determination that we're asking the commission to make, because the operation is, at least in our assessment staffs, different from a traditional dealership, that this would be a change of use that at least requires site plan review. So that's why it's before you, but it is in your purview to make the determination that it can be permitted as a dealership or this other similar use category.
So just for my awareness, because you used as an example, the comparison to traditional, but traditional is not anymore. All the cars are sitting on the lot and you got to go there to get a car. That's not how you buy a car now. You do it online, whether you are going to a Ford Motor Company dealership or a Lexus, or it doesn't matter. You're going online first. You're going to call the people after you find the one you like, and then you're going to go up there and you're going to give them your money and sign 100 million pieces of paper and drive off with your car. So that is the way of the world today, and they have already caught up with Carvana in that. The only thing they don't have is that really large tower thing that I like a lot. So the vending machine, really love the vending machine. So that's why I'm kind of struggling while I was listening through this, because car dealerships and the way we sell cars, and I say we because I'm retired from that business, it's the same. It's not different.
Mr. Schultz, do you have something to add on that topic?
I guess I was just going to echo Mike's comment that that's really one of the questions that's really the first question that you're deciding. Are you comfortable calling this within the concept of an auto dealership? Or would you say it's close enough to an auto dealership that it falls within that catch-all of other similar uses? There's some differences still, I think, between Carvana and a traditional one, but I think you certainly, if a majority of the commission says we're fine with this use, it's contemplated in the ordinance,
Then
then
it's
you
the
move on to, then
same.
you move on to the site plan.
So my own comment is I intend to ask if the hours of operation are only when people are coming and you don't intend it to be to 9 PM, why do there need to be lights on those vehicles if they're not, if you're discouraging walk-up traffic, if there's no one there to sell them a car, if there's no one there to operate the business at night, why do the lights have to be on at 9 PM? Can't they be down at the time that the operation ends? So I intend to ask that question. Mr. Stimson?
Yeah, I was gonna just sort of second what Danielle was saying is, I bought a car this winter, and I didn't step foot inside the dealership except to sign the papers. And it was all done over the phone and over email. And I just don't see where this is significant. And to me, if they put a kiosk in there where someone could actually go in and browse, again, that's just virtual browsing like you would if you went to a real dealership, except the car is not there, but you're virtually viewing it. So, you know, if that's the technicality that someone can't walk in, if they put a kiosk where someone could browse the inventory, I don't see how this is any different than a normal dealership and how dealerships operate today. I mean, everything seems to be virtual, you know, and there's not, I didn't even sign paper. It's, so, you know, but I was in the dealership for about 20 minutes and walked out with a car. And actually, that's been the last 2 vehicles I've bought, where, you know, it was all done remotely.
So which again,
Yeah.
through the chair, that's not a call that the staff or your consultants is gonna make. That's why it's here for you. And you'll notice in the first motion that you have in your proposed motion sheet, the first thing you get to do is decide whether this is close enough to an auto dealership that you're gonna consider it a permitted use and move on to the site plan. Sounds like,
I guess
You
we're
are.
or for me, speak for me. I'm asking because having developers or business people do steps that we don't need to litigate is more what I'm trying to understand or educate myself on is this particular question shouldn't be a question, then they wouldn't have to do the work. Are you saying they would still have to come in though for the site plan itself? You know, because they'll be new into that same building, but the land use part, they wouldn't have to have decided on. It's what I'm saying is if there's no difference and we all understand how the industry works today.
so first, somebody needs to make the determination that there is no difference. That's not something your consultant or your staff can do. It has to come to you to answer that question. It sounds
Okay.
like you're going to answer that question in the affirmative, which
I got you.
is good. So then we just move on to the, how's the site comply and what do we need to make them do? So, you know, sounds like you're more than halfway through it and would move on to the details of the site plan.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Cunningham, do you have something for the staff or?
Yeah. I mean, it may beg the question that staff may want to look at the existing language in our ordinance and see if it needs to be updated to mirror what currently happening in the market.
This is the second one we've had.
Teach me.
This is the second one we've had.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you. Barry, just hold on one second. Do you think we might benefit first from hearing from the proponent, or is this a question for staff now?
This is a question for,
For staff, okay. Mr. Brickner, please.
the comment I'd like to make, though, is that even though this is pretty much what's there already, the fact is that the building and the surroundings in there predate some of our ordinances, including the lighting ordinance, and so we still have to make determinations as to whether they fit, whether they fit in there or not, and I don't think there's a big argument over that, but the thing is things have changed over the years, and they have to meet our ordinance requirements. One of the things you didn't mention, but I assume it's in your little list, is that they have to have the the dumpster enclosed, there was an extra handicap parking that you mentioned in your book. And there's a few other things in there especially the lighting situation, the light, when that thing was built, it predated our lighting ordinances. Our lighting ordinance is not, I don't think it's that old. You know, I mean, our city attorney could tell us that, but the lighting in that particular area predates our lighting ordinances, and that's might have, they might have been around for 20 years though, hasn't it? That building's been around longer than that. And then we got the fenestration things and all the other stuff like that. But
Mr. Manti.
and the other thing that we really didn't mention and they're gonna have to look at is the fact that they have to let us know whether or not the rooftop air conditioning heating units are behind parapets and they're not seen from the street level. And I drive by it all the time. I don't see them. But, I mean, those are things that we have to consider, even though we might say, hey, you know, go on, move in, have a good time.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes, I would say that the intent of the ordinance is to allow legal existing nonconformities to continue, but also to encourage their gradual elimination over time, or that a site gradually be brought into compliance when things like site plan review are required. So I think now is the appropriate time to do that assessment, given that site plan review is required, but especially with some of the waiver criteria, there are things you can say can remain or could be waived for practical reasons.
It's worth noting that they don't self-identify as a dealership, they self-identify as a customer service center. Mr. Manti.
It's been about a half hour. Can you remind me, you mentioned we could ask for concessions. Why could we ask for concessions?
You could impose conditions as a part of, for example, a determination that the use as described is comparable to other, what else, I'll use the term traditional dealerships or other commercial uses that are allowed in the district. You could specify conditions to ensure that that remains the case over time.
That's it?
In short, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. This is not a special land use, it's not a cluster, it's not a PUD, it's a site plan. So the conditions would be conditions to make sure it's what they say it is.
Okay.
Not cool things you would like.
All right, in the interest of moving forward, let's move on to allow the proponent to present their case and their request. Please step up and state your name and address and present your case.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Dennis Cowan. I live and work at 2716 Trafford in beautiful Royal Oak, not too far away. So glad to be here with you this evening. First, I want to take the opportunity to thank your city planner and also both Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Auerbach from Carlisle Wortman for their assistance in guiding us through this process and understanding the site plan review requirements and other matters. This journey started back in January with an initial meeting that I attended with a representative of Carvana, and we're finally here today, and we're glad to be here. Also with me tonight from Carvana is Emily Garcia, the project manager who came from Arizona. It's a little chilly here today, but she brought a couple sweaters, so she's doing okay. And also Jamie Antonovich, who is with Atwell, who is our project engineer. We also have in the audience that they're not part of the Carvana team, but the property owners and Carvana's landlord, Mr. Charles Saad and Mr. David Rea, who's representing, I believe, his father. So they're the two owners of the property. We asked them to be here, so if there was any historical issues and this whole issue, if it comes up on the underground tanks that are gone now and the above ground tanks, we asked them to be here this evening to assist. Carvana believes it's found a perfect site here in Farmington Hills. It's over 6 acres. It gives a lot of elbow room for the operations. The initial site that Carvana had here in southeastern Michigan, which you're familiar with in Novi, because of the tower, is only 1.3 acres. It's very tight. And because of the growth of Carvana's business here, they had to find a larger site, and they found it here in Farmington Hills. And especially with the fact that this had been a former car dealership, we thought from a use viewpoint, it would make a good match. It's also easily accessible, has ample parking and a large building from which the interior will be used to prep the vehicles before they're either picked up or delivered to customers. We think this is an excellent reuse and reactivation of the site. There's nothing worse than having a large vacant piece of property in a commercial area, and that's what people see and focus on. And unfortunately, I will answer that question for the vice chair. We will not have the tower. That's not part of the proposal. But if somebody wants to get a car from Carvana, we can arrange to have them go to the tower. The first issue I want to cover, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it unless it's necessary, is just the use question. We believe we do fit into the ordinance. We're a used car operation with an office, with a main use carried on within the building, which is primarily the preparation of those vehicles and the office work that goes into the paperwork to complete the transaction, and also the open-air display of vehicles, or in this case, more or less storage of vehicles on a very temporary basis. But we respect the analysis that the staff has made and Carlisle Wortman, but we really believe we hit a home run when it comes to showing that we are a similar commercial use and we are not of a more objectionable character. Simply put, I gave you, the first page I gave you has a whole laundry list, and I'm not going to read through all of it, of things or activities that are not going to be on the site. There's no bump shop or spray paint operations. There's no new car sales. Most importantly, there's no car repair. Carvana doesn't even have mechanics on site. So there's no diagnostic testing. There's no mufflers. There's no oil changes. Any of that you would associate with a traditional dealership is simply not going to be at the Carvana site. So as a result, we believe that we will have less noise, less traffic, we will have less odor, we will have be more environmentally safe than your traditional full-service car dealership. So I also want to point out that this site is the customer experience center that deals with the public and deals with customers. We have another location in Flint that is what we call the reconditioning and repair hub. So when we take cars, or Carvana takes cars on a trade-in or purchases a car, that car doesn't stay on site. It goes most likely to Flint, because that's the closest one for repair and reconditioning. Then it's obviously put on the website and finds a home eventually somewhere with a customer. So I'll leave that at that issue, and we would respectfully ask that you find that we are either within the ordinance or that we fit within what Mr. Schultz has referred to as the catch-all provision. Functionally, we're going to look like a dealership, and most people are going to call us a car dealership. That's what most people call us. So I just want to touch on a couple of things because I want Jamie to come up and walk through the site plan and answer some of the questions that you have in terms of the waivers and some of the other things with respect to the site. But I just want to touch on a couple quick things. Carvana does not have an issue with the conditions that are up on the screen, 5 of the 6. We would respectfully ask there not be any type of restriction or limitation on the vehicles. The 80 to 100 vehicle limit was given for informational purposes. It's kind of an average. It could spike. We probably, in doing the analysis, have about 200 spaces available for cars And we would like to be able to utilize that. And we think that's one of the reasons we look to lease this site and operate on this site, is because it has a lot of elbow room that can be used for operations, unlike the Novi site. So again, the 5 of the 6, we have no problem with. We talked about those. We described those in our description of operations. We're not making any change to the footprint of either of the buildings, and only the main building will be used. The smaller building is not going to be used at this time by Carvana. So I guess if we want to put empty or no use, if Carvana ever seeks a use for that building, we will have to come back to you. They understand that. But at this time, there's not a use for that building within the operations as planned by Carvana. Also, I did present to you the second page that I gave you was just a list of all the various site improvements that we estimate at this time will be about $400,000. It could be a little more, but we do not fit within a requirement for the public art per your newly passed ordinance. I think it was in November of last year. And finally, on the underground storage tanks, there are no underground storage tanks on the property. The above-ground storage tanks have been removed, albeit I think there's one left on site that's being hauled off. It's been removed from where it was located. So we think that issue is not problematic at all. Also, the hoists, we've been informed by the landlord, those are above-ground hoists. They don't have in-ground equipment. Those are going to be removed. So those also are not going to be on site. There is no car wash equipment on site. There was a bay that had a hose. And I think when someone reviewed it, they thought that was maybe an old site plan. That was a car wash, like a setup where you pull through, and it isn't. In fact, we saw it on a site visit, and it's absolutely empty. There's not even the hose there anymore. So those are just a couple preliminary comments to give you kind of an overview from our perspective, Carvana's perspective. And now I'll ask Jamie to come up to walk through the site plan and answer some of the questions, particularly those which were the determinations and the items that need to be met to your satisfaction.
May I ask a question first, Mr. Chair, of that gentleman?
Yes, Mr. Manti.
I believe you referred to 8 items. Was it 7?
For what?
You said you had no problem except with.
Oh, the
one of
conditions.
And the conditions, did you say 7 or 8?
No, there's 6 conditions that are listed up on the screen. The first one.
Those aren't all the
6.
conditions.
Well, there are
That's some
potential.
kind of summary. There's a separate list of 8 conditions, I believe,
Okay,
on page 19 of our report.
okay, then I.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
And it's not 6 nor 8, right? There's 7 on that screen, right? So
There's 7 on the
that's what
screen.
we're
and-
talking about, right?
And
Those
and one of
those are
them is
conditions that
additional.
we may adopt
yes,
if
yes.
we want to. They're just model conditions provided by the consultant.
But there were these waivers that are listed.
Okay, and
8 of them.
Jamie's going to talk about that.
Just wanted to clarify.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so continuing your presentation, state your name and address.
Jamie Antonovich with Atwell, 12745 23 Mile, Shelby Township.
Can we do that last name again?
Yep, Antonovich.
How do you spell?
Yep, ANTONIEWICZ.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As been touched on, given the history of the site and the proposed operations, a lot of changes were not required to make this operational. However, as noted about being more compliant with the ordinance, we are adding a number of parking lot islands and landscaping to bring that up to compliance. There are, a decent number of mature trees on the southwest corner of the entrance. We were at the site earlier today. We'll fill in that blank area on the southeast portion of the site. To kind of get into a few of the highlighted items that were brought up, I guess I'll touch on lighting first. So what we're proposing and requesting approval for is the operational lighting. Now, based on the history of the property, being part of a larger dealership historically, and then now surrounded by commercial property, including the McDonald's, there's light pole locations that are not ideal for, controlling it down to levels required. So we're asking for consideration for what's shown here, that exceeds the 0.3 slightly. We don't want spotlights into the apartments, absolutely not. On site, I saw some of the kind of pole-mounted floodlights. Again, like we noted, those would be removed. I guess another point that maybe doesn't come out in a review, we're talking operational lighting here. Notes on our plan are to reduce the lighting to 70% of the levels during non-operational hours, to turn off the facade lighting on the building. But then, keep some of the other lighting for safety and security, essentially. So it will be reduced further from what's shown here during overnight hours when no one's on site. On the rooftop units, as Barry noted, and I observed on site and, from street views, yes, there are current existing rooftop units, not readily available or observable from Grand River, based on the location, kind of setback in the building, height of the building, elevation of the property. So we would request consideration for no additional screening based on them not being observable. Other than that, I mean, a lot of the kind of questions or comments we had about reusing the building have been discussed. When we're talking facelift, we're talking painting. There may not even be, to the point made, windows and doors being replaced. Painting to improve the condition of the look, repairs as needed. Saw some stairs that probably need to be replaced on the building. And then otherwise keep it as currently composed.
Before we get away from the facelift, could you estimate the amount that you'd be paying for the facelift?
Do we have that broken down, that cost estimate of the 400,000? I forgot if we had a line item for that particular item. Okay.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
hold
jump
on.
up
we
here.
can't answer from there. So, yes, please go up and state your name and the address and.
Hi, Emily Garcia with Carvana. So based on our cost estimate that we gave, that's just kind of what we do. We just, on all our properties, is like when we do like a facelift, we haven't contracted any of our contractors or anything to give us that estimate. So right now, that's just kind of what our cost is, and whether that cost is more or less of what it is, we don't have that yet.
I think, from my view, the importance is that contributes to the amount that's being renovated or applied to the project.
Correct.
And it might trigger our public art requirement. So I'm surprised that you guys don't have some estimate of that particular aspect of it, but you have estimates of everything else. And you're certain that you fall below the limit, but you're not including this spruce up of the building. And I assume if the other building is vacant, you'd also be sprucing up or cleaning that one up too, at least the exterior fascia of that building. And that would also be part of the overall cost commitment of the project.
Yeah, and we're gonna paint the building and clean it up with the paint and, freshen that up, but that's kind of what we're proposing right now, just because the building, we're coming in cosmetically to like make it look better from our perspective.
Thank you. Mr. Manti, do you have something else? No.
I can wait.
Okay. Really? Okay.
I mean, there's not a whole lot more to add, available to answer questions. Loading will be for vehicles. We are asking for consideration for a side yard just for ease of unloading and based on site layout, but looking for any feedback there and to answer any questions along that line and any other questions I can answer.
So you said that the lighting will be turned down to 70%.
Yeah,
during,
at most. Yep.
Non-operational hours.
Correct.
But you guys have not been specific in what your operational hours are. In fact, you were vague, intentionally vague, as to whether or not, it says our operational hours will be less than this, but we want to be available from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Correct.
And I mean, that should seems like another question that should be answerable.
Yeah.
If you don't intend for there, my understanding is you don't intend for there to be any browsing or walk-up, people looking at the vehicles and, or driving in and coming in at 8:30 PM or whatever, just to look at cars to see what's there. Your model is that there's no interaction with people who walk up. In fact, it's discouraged in some sense. And so I would think that the tuning down of the lighting and the making clear what your operational or delivery hours are.
Yeah.
I suppose you could provide those deliveries even if the whole lot was not illuminated at 100%. So I think you would benefit from providing a little bit more clarity if you can. I think Joe wants to add something to that. You did?
If you want to respond to what he just said first. go
I would
ahead.
say the hours shown, on our site plan that we're committing to would be the maximum. Could be some flexibility throughout the year, perhaps. For employees, managing inventory, for safety of movement, if there's enough, people, we want the area to be lit while that's happening. So even though there's not public there, we do want some lighting for that when there's more activity. It'll dim a little bit, during it'll dim 70% at maximum during non-operational hours, but we still want some lighting. There's inventory stored there for security purposes.
So for security purposes, not for sales purposes or?
Correct, yeah, it's lit so someone could be potentially spotted from the right-of-way or by security.
Thank you.
If he wants to go first, go ahead.
Mr. Conigan?
So what do you estimate in terms of your inventory? How many vehicles will you have in sight at any given time?
I mean, it's touched on a little bit. I mean, typically
Range would be fine.
100 up to 200, based on the kind of storage we're requesting.
So certainly you want illumination you're going to have inventory on site.
Correct.
In addition to safety for people who work there and customers.
Yep. Some parts of the year may not even turn on. We know here. In some parts of the year, it's on at 5 to.
So from our standpoint, could we just assume that your maximum hours, 8 AM to 9 PM for our purposes, that's what your hours are?
Correct.
Even though it may be less?
Correct.
So whatever our deliberation is, we should consider as a planning commission, 8 to 9.
But 7 to 9.
7 to 9.
Here, let me clarify this, because we did state it in the Customer Experience Center is open from 7 AM, is operational 7 to 9. With the public, it's from 8 to 9. So we have the workers show up an hour earlier.
For our purposes, 7 to 9.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good, thank you.
Ms. Grant?
Yeah, you just mentioned as far as approximately vehicles on site. Right in front of me, I have approximately 80 to 100 vehicles. You went from 100 to 200.
I'm allowing for increased business and to match the storage we potentially have.
Okay, and then also, early on, it was mentioned, I guess, with the car carrier, there was like questioning about the space
Yeah.
on that. Can you?
So are we talking delivery or the on-site
Delivery.
parking?
Delivery.
So, yeah, I guess that would be the larger multi-vehicle delivery vehicle.
Yes, it was,
That will be running up the side of the
Yes,
building
correct.
to drop off
Yes.
inventory or pick up, and then circulating back out. So that's why we locate it on the side of the building to explain where we'd rather have it, just based on limitations of turning radius around the building.
yeah, it just seemed a little tight.
And that's multi-car haulers, right?
Correct, that
That's
is.
bringing cars in.
Correct.
There was a
But the other area are the individual delivery vehicles, the flatbeds that are bringing the vehicles to the customers.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Traffilet?
what kind of car carrier are you using? A standard, like 9 cars you could bring in from Flint at a time?
It is two level. There's a Carvana, one is a little specific. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I don't know.
Then the second half, and Emily may have to answer this, how many a day are you going to be running through? Trucks, semi-trucks?
we try to move, or Carvana tries to move the vehicles within 48 to 72 hours to Flint. So if we had, let's say, on an average 80 to 100, and we're trying to move those within 24 to 72 hours, if you do the math on, with a 9-car hauler, we're probably talking about 4 or 5, 6 a day.
Semis,
Cars,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, which is,
Go ahead.
which, by the way, would be roughly maybe a few more or less with a traditional dealership because they have cars coming and going all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just curious. What are you doing about, did I miss signs? Do you have signage on this building?
It's not shown on the elevations, but it's proposed, basically within the facade shown. And I understand that would be permitted separately.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Timpson?
Are we ready for a motion? Any other questions? Oh, Joe has one.
I was deferring.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you, sir. We had that list of 6 or 7, I don't even remember anymore up there. And you said, hey, we'll meet everything, don't worry, except the one, which I don't have a problem with. However, in our package, we have a list of 8 that we are told on page 19, I don't know if you have our package, that the commission must make following determinations. Then we have a list of 9 of items that should be addressed to the commissioner's satisfaction. So I'm briefly going to jump through that,
Right.
okay? The first 2 have to do with, is this a car sales place? And if it's not, you can try and get some kind of conditions, but I don't think that's happening. And whether or not the loading space can be in the side yard, are we going to say, yes, it's okay? Or have you already said, no, that's all right, we're going to put it in the back? See, I'm not clear.
We want it on the side if that is acceptable.
Okay, so when we make a motion, we need to
Please,
include
yes.
that. Good. Whether or not the illumination levels.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said we can meet the illumination levels.
I am requesting what we are shown to be reviewed and approved.
Okay, just wanted to make clear what we're
appreciate
doing
that.
here. Now, the pedestrian connection, we never discussed.
Mm-hmm.
You have 100 extra parking spots, and I believe all we're asking for is painting a stripe
Mm-hmm.
to say this is where you walk. And I am going to say that if I didn't have a car, there's a chance on Grand River I might take a bus
Sure.
to go get to it. So we're just asking for a path to be painted. So you don't need that kind of exemption, is that correct?
I guess I'm willing to listen, given the operations, car-centric.
Well, I know.
Right. I think we didn't put it on the plan because we didn't think it was needed for the operation. But
I personally have gone to 2 different car dealers in the last year using the bus.
Sure.
So I'm going to be persistent there.
Understood.
Okay, but whoever makes the motion can address that. And then there's 2 about whether or not the fenestration requirements,
Yeah.
the building materials, is that all settled? You don't.
We are
need
asking
waiver?
for consideration for what is existing. So in this,
Do want that waiver?
we do, yes.
Okay. And then the 2 million, you're confident you're under 2
Yes.
million?
Yep.
If not, we're going to change the law so that there's a big penalty.
Yep.
Okay.
Understood, yeah.
And then you're going to confirm that the rooftop equipment will be screened?
It exists.
No problem?
I guess based on my earlier comment, I would like consideration to not add additional screening.
Yeah, I don't know if it meets, it doesn't meet.
So if I can offer some guidance on these items, and based on the discussion tonight, I think there are going to have to be some adjustments to the motions based on what we've talked about. So you could, if the motion is to approve, indicate that the existing rooftop equipment does not need to be screened, that it's not visible from the right-of-way, and/or the existing rooftop equipment can remain.
But if they improve it, is that your point?
If you don't if you've determined that there aren't sufficient changes to warrant additional screening, and if it's not visible anyway, which apparently it may not be visible clearly from the right-of-way,
I have no idea.
you could say that no additional screening needs to be provided. Regarding the vehicle stored on site, if that's not a concern to you, and I think that was in our review, just in the event there was some concern or a different opinion about whether the use is conventional auto sales versus just a storage lot. If that's not a concern to you and you don't feel there's a need to limit vehicle storage, which it sounds like there may not be that concern, you don't need to include that condition.
Well, there was no limit on this list, was there?
We
It
had,
was in summary, I haven't gotten to that yet.
it's,
Yeah.
so it's in the, one of the motion templates.
Now, I'm not making this motion, because making these motions is too much work these days. I'm helping whoever's gonna make the motion get organized.
I'm trying to do
And
that
I would
too,
like,
but.
Joe, if I could, I'd like to offer a suggestion to the planning commission. Whether we go, it's similar or it's a dealership, there may be some merit in saying it is a dealership, in which, I mean, there's many aspects of this plan that are similar to a dealership that may prompt us to update our ordinance so that we're not saying it's similar and not objectionable. So in some ways, I'm open to a motion that says it's compatible with the dealership, which then may trigger staff to say, let's look at, maybe we can clean up our language if this is what the market's doing now.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying this is an exception and we're going through all kinds of rules to justify it. That doesn't feel comfortable to me. Okay, that was it.
Well, I agree with you, but this is not a debate part. This is the interrogation.
Yeah, no, this
Yes.
was an
Yes,
aside.
because the point that all of these car dealerships operate this way now is a very good point. Okay, screen the dumpster.
Dumpster will be screened, yes.
Dumpster will be screened. We don't have to worry about that. Handicap space adjacent to the eastern building that's not going to be used?
Yes, so that would be my question. If it's not going to be used as stated, we don't feel the need for any parking or ADA parking in that area.
And that
Saying
would,
you're not gonna have handicap parking at all?
No, by the eastern building. There's some
two
existing by
buildings,
the
one they're
curb,
not
yeah.
going to use.
That they're not gonna have?
So whoever makes the motion would need to include that evidently. And confirm that proposed plantings comply with the maximum height
Yep, no issue.
and underground tanks. I thought you even said they were already gone.
Yeah, in our position, that's not applicable.
Okay. And the fixtures include shielded reflectors is required. We do require shielding, and you said you're putting new lighting up anyway, so, okay. And then I'll leave all the fire department stuff
Yeah,
to
we'll work
other
with that-
people
We'll work
to
with
address.
staff on those items. yes.
There you go.
Ms. Grant.
But it does state on here that the maximum vehicles on site shall not exceed the applicant's stated 80 to 100 vehicles.
But where does it say that? It doesn't say that in my list of what we have to
It's
consider.
in the
It
motion.
is there.
Oh, it's in the motion. Well, I wasn't going to make the motion.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just making.
Those are all suggestions.
There's a draft
You
motion.
don't have to require that if you don't think it's appropriate. You just don't read that one.
It's right here.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. County.
And I purposely asked them what they would think their max inventory would be, so at least we'd have a record of, this is what we thought, and this is what is possible. So in case down the road, there's a question that comes up in terms of their use, and code enforcement gets involved, and there's a lot of vehicles there, they've said that 200 is a maximum number.
That's not what's stated on here. It says 80 to 100.
Well, I'm just,
If I could, just to clarify, so what we were saying is that we have roughly 300 spaces on site right now. We estimate that with the, just practically speaking, employees, customers, vendors, whatever, that's probably about 100. So that leaves about 200 for inventory. And we'd like to be able to use all 300 spaces.
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, somebody should be on record saying this is the maximum, so it doesn't become an issue down the road. 300 cars show up there, and we said there was 80, 200, whatever the record is, and we were aware of it when we approved a plan or didn't approve a plan. That's my only point, whatever that number is.
Right.
So the motion could include just the limit, not a range, which we keep
Yes.
going at ranges, but an actual numerical limit on the number of inventory vehicles they can have.
If I can make a quick suggestion regarding the inventory limit, the site plan itself, I think, is an adequate record of the number of spaces. You wouldn't need to make any specification, and the default would be they'd be limited to the approved parking spaces and couldn't store inventory in the setback. So based on your discussion, I don't think it's necessary to specify that as a condition.
So a traditional auto dealer would not have a limit on how much inventory they could have. They would just be limited by the number of spaces they're required to have.
Right.
Is that right?
But my comment only went to that the draft motion, I think, indicated 80 spaces.
Yeah,
So
so,
to clarify that,
sure.
just, okay.
So
So
you,
there's no confusion.
yeah, and you could leave that item out if it's not a
Still the
concern.
question of, they're required to have a minimum amount of spaces for their employees and for people that are visiting the site. And I did not see the minimum requirement in there. So if you say they have to have 40 spaces for employees and for shoppers, then they can use the other 262 for cars. But the thing is, they're still going to be required to maintain a certain amount of parking spaces for the business and not just for storage. So the question is, what's the minimum number they need based upon the facility that is there? Is it 40? Is it 50?
Yeah. So with going with that 49 required spaces number, they do show 50 designated spaces for employees and 15 for customers. So,
It's 65.
right, which meets the requirement.
Right, so,
And-
but the thing is that since it's a big parking lot, they have to have a minimum of 65 spaces that aren't used for storing cars, which means they can store up to 235? So that would be the max, that should be the max number you're dealing with, is they have 235 spaces for,
Ms. Ware?
you don't care?
Where is this articulated that we have to micromanage the amount of how the total spaces are used in a business?
That's in the order.
So it goes back to the determination about the use. If you're comfortable this is a dealership, you don't need to specify any special conditions. Now, if there was a question that whether or not this wasn't a traditional dealership, that it was more of just a storage lot or some other use, then you might want to consider specifications about vehicle storage and the total inventory that can be on site. But seems that you're comfortable, that's not an issue, so you don't need to specify that sort of thing.
I appreciate that answer. Now I want to drill down just a little tiny bit more.
All right.
Because this conversation has gone into micromanaging the difference between how many parking spots the employees, who we don't have any control over how many employees they're gonna have, will use versus how many are gonna have, so, I just want to know if what you said is more general than the conversation we're having right now about trying to put in our motion specifically how many employee spaces, how many customer spaces. That seems a bit much.
I do think it is a valid analysis, and while I understand that it may seem kind of micromanagey, an analogy that comes to mind is, say, a self-storage facility that can have, I've seen examples of self-storage facilities that have very few, if any, on-site parking spaces. And in those scenarios, it kind of does become an important question, where are those customers going to park? If there is one or two on-site staff people and there's only a few parking spaces, and that, again, the question again becomes, where will those customers park if there's always going to be one or two staff people on site? So while I understand it can feel micromanagey, I do think it is an important assessment for the commission to make, and again, it does seem they have spaces for both on site.
Mr. Manti?
Thank you.
I want to agree with Commissioner Ware. And I want to remind the other commissioners that during the master planning process, you know, we talked about loosening the parking requirements. And the idea is that we trust the businesses to either have enough parking for their employees not either, but to have enough parking for their employees and their customers. And if they're not smart enough to do that, they're going to fail anyways. So
Or they're going to park at
there's an,
McDonald's. Or they're gonna
I'm going to stop right there.
My comment would be that we have to make a determination as whether the similarities between this and a traditional dealership. Traditional dealership has unlimited inventory that they're trying to sell to whoever comes into the dealership. In this case, they are literally storing vehicles that, and can manage how many customers that they have at a particular time, because they're all arranged. And there's nobody walking in, there's no flex, so if we're going to make a determination that it's similar to a dealership, that's a dissimilarity. So that applies to one of the four, comparisons that we're supposed to make. I have another question. Is every sale that will come from this Carvana, I almost said Nirvana, Carvana location recorded as a sale in Farmington Hills?
Yes, so I just wanted to address, sorry. So while Carvana operates on a centralized digital retail model, the transactions generate by residents in Farmington Hills.
Okay, so all the transactions that are processed through Farmington Hills are Farmington Hills auto sales. Even the ones that, if they buy from the vending machine, but they pick up at this customer relationship center, is that a Farmington Hills sale or a Novi sale?
Yes. Well,
Yes?
you're talking about, our vending machine that's local to Michigan,
The one that's in Novi.
the one that's in Novi. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot, you're not from Michigan. But we have the vending machine
Yes.
in the adjacent community, and I guess my main point that I was concerned about was that they would be booked either as sales in Novi or sales in Ohio or Arizona or wherever, but they're all, so for purposes of sales tax collection, these are all Farmington Hills revenue generating sales.
Correct.
All the ones that come through this dealership.
Correct.
This customer relations center. Yeah, excuse me, not dealership, not yet a dealership. Do we have any more questions for the proponent? Mr. Brickner.
Well, I actually have one for the city attorney.
For staff.
I understand what this is. It's a car dealership or whatever you want to call it. The fact of the matter is that no matter what we are doing under ordinance, we're required to have a minimum amount of parking spaces for customers and employees and whatever. And I don't know that, does the ordinance allow us to just say, forget about it, there's 302 spaces, we got enough? Or do we have to set a minimum amount of spaces meant not for storage or for pickup of cars, but we have to set does the ordinance require us to set a minimum amount of spaces for customers and employees?
I don't think the ordinance requires you to designate them or requires you to make them designate those. You're reviewing the plan to see if they have sufficient parking designated on the plan to meet your ordinance requirement, and apparently they do.
Okay,
How about handicap?
that's the question I wanted to ask.
And, yeah, they'll take care of handicap too.
So if we wanted to, we could ask them to retain the handicap space, for example, at the second building, or we can apply those. We don't have to waive those typical requirements that would.
So based on the motion template we wrote, if someone makes a motion to approve, then I'd suggest adding that handicap spaces adjacent to the east building are not required until a use is permitted.
Any more questions for the proponent or staff? If none, then I'll entertain a motion. Oh, yeah, a question or a motion?
Motion.
Motion. Mr. Stimson.
Okay. Motion to grant preliminary site plan approval for the Carvana SP 69-11 2025 proposal based on the information provided by the applicants, the May 12th, 2026 Carlisle Wortman review letter, the May 8th, 2026 city engineer review letter, the May 1st, 2026 fire marshal review letter, and the findings that the proposal meets the requirements of section 34-6.1 of the City of Farmington Hills zoning ordinance and applicable zoning ordinance requirements subject to the following. Use determination. The proposed use qualifies as a new or used car sales room, showroom, or office when the main use is carried on within a building or open-air display of vehicles as accessory. Loading space. The loading space may be permitted in the side yard as proposed. Site conditions limit the space available in the rear yard, and the side yard location is adequately set back and screened from the street. Illumination levels. The applicant must submit a revised lighting plan that demonstrates compliance with the 0.3 foot candle property line illumination limit. Additional illumination does not provide public safety benefits and may be a nuisance to drivers in adjacent properties. Pedestrian connection. The required pedestrian connection must be provided. The applicant has not demonstrated that it is impractical to provide the connection. Design requirements, provided that no significant facade modifications beyond one-for-one window replacement are proposed, the buildings do not need to be brought into compliance with section 34-5.20 design requirements. This approval is subject to the following conditions upon which the commissioner's findings that the proposed use is a used or a new or used car dealership. No inoperable, damaged, wrecked, or visibly derelict vehicles will be stored on site. All items identified in the May 12th, 2026 Carlisle Wortman review letter shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city planner. All items identified in the May 8th, 2026 city engineer review letter shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the city engineer. All items identified in the May 1st, 2026 fire marshal review letter shall be addressed to the reasonable satisfaction of the fire marshal. On the rooftop screening, we will be waiving the existing nonconformity, and the handicap spaces for the east building will be waived until that building is put into use.
Second.
He's got to do the, where they can unload though, because that would be
The unload? I
didn't catch
You
that.
just said. You just said.
number 5.
Side yard loading?
Side yard.
You said side yard, right?
I said the side yard.
Yeah.
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 I didn't hear him do it.
We got a motion, we had a discussion.
Dale seconded it.
That's okay, you used it.
The motion by Mr. Stimson, seconded by Mr. Cownigan. Any, yes.
Chair, there's a slight distinction in the use that was read. So I don't have it in front of me, but the use that has the accessory outdoor display is not the correct use. That is only applied in the city to a used car dealership that has in like a showroom where they have maybe 6 cars inside. The accessory that's allowed is the 6 cars could move from the showroom out to the parking lot, and that is it. So it's the use would be the outdoor sales display category.
Why are you making that distinction? Why can't it be the other one?
Because there is other standards that go with the outdoor displays, such as the
You're saying it
parking
needs to
of
be an
vehicles.
outdoor display of sale or?
Yes,
rental?
it's something we really need to make a little more clear in the code, but that is how it's been interpreted in the past. Because the outdoor display requires, for example, the inventory to not be parked in the setback. There's use standards associated with outdoor display of vehicles that are applicable in this situation.
So for the maker of the motion, I suppose
Yeah, so-
either we're adding that or we're eliminating that condition, right? We have the option to.
Well, we're changing the use to an outdoor display for sale or rental of new or used motor vehicles, trailers, mobile homes, boats, recreation vehicles, or other similar properties.
That's correct. Yes, that would be the appropriate
The
use.
appropriate use? Okay, I'm good with that.
You second that?
So is there a need to amend the motion?
Yeah, I just did.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
He
Go with the
seconded
amendment.
it.
And seconded by Mr. Cownigan.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Mr. Schultz?
I'm trying to see which ones of these conditions the maker of the motion skipped here.
It went
Okay.
pretty fast, yeah.
Yes.
I only included number 2.
Oh, okay.
Number
So-
2, 7, 8, 9.
So, question in particular, if you are not putting a limitation on the,
To me, this is no different than a typical auto dealer who does do paint. and
but we would not allow in that case the display or storage within required setbacks?
Oh, yes, since we changed the
Right, since
Okay,
you're not-
yes. So I do need to add, no outdoor display or storage of inventory is permitted in the required setbacks, since I changed the use.
And then, just if I may, number 5, one of the big issues with any dealership
Okay.
is the loading and unloading of the large semis.
Okay.
So the limitation in number 5
In the,
is kind of a
since I
practical-
approved the loading area on the side, okay.
that would,
So the vehicle carrier unloading will only take place in the approved side loading area. No unloading, staging in Grand River, drive aisles, or required setbacks is permitted.
and you're just saying 3 and 4 are sort of covered in the
Yep.
expected. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I would like a little bit more clarification on 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are not included as required conditions?
They are not. To me, they are part of a normal dealership. They're not going to do them, but if they decided to do minor repair or do some repairs, they have a building, it'll all be indoors. I don't see why we would want to restrict that.
No, you're talking about the spare building, so in theory.
Well, even the building behind that used to be used for that. I mean, the building used to be used for it. So I don't see a reason to restrict it.
Okay. I'm going to say I kind of object to the lack of that condition. I don't think that they should be permitted or intend to do engine rebuilding, mechanical repair, major reconditioning. And so I would have trouble supporting the motion without those conditions. I think those conditions are important, and that they be restrictions on the new type of use.
So you don't.
Notwithstanding the fact that they're similar to other typical dealership, they're allowed under a typical dealership.
That's my point, is that this is very much like a regular dealership and it's allowed.
That's the primary point of the motion, the initial preamble, that this is a dealership, and therefore, we're saying it's a dealership. So, and those are allowed.
Yeah, I feel strongly about keeping that in, or not including that.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's no sense, we might as well condition it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I guess my only confusion is what you're saying, what you're saying, it's okay if they decide that they want to do collision repair and all of this, but they stood in front of us and
They're
said
not
they're
gonna do
not
it.
going to
Right.
do that. And same with the cost, well, I think it's gonna cost like $400,000. To me, it's just seemed like they're just trying to get their foot in the door, and then once we do that, we're just gonna do whatever we want to do. Some
But
of
if it
these
does
items.
exceed 2 million,
Yeah.
then they have to come back for the art, so, I mean.
So you can, to stipulate about the cost of what it's gonna take to repair, to trigger art is one thing. To try to dictate a car company to not be able to do what's normal course of their business because today they don't want to do it right this second. It isn't playing well with businesses. They didn't come and ask to change the Arby's to a dealership. They are a car company wanting to take over a car company space to do the same things that always exist in that space.
Fine, but I'm just going by what they said they're going to do. That's my only, if they didn't
That's my-
say
that's-
that would be fine, but they are saying that we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do this. And so-
That's my opinion too. They've defined themselves as a new type of sales operation for vehicles. They don't even call themselves a dealership. They have stated they have no intention of doing any of those repairs or anything else, so the restrictions would not impact them. So I believe that those restrictions are important. In fact, I kind of feel like they're almost the most important ones that we've discussed, in my opinion. And I think we should be establishing this new model type of dealership as being that sort of dealership, a sales center only. It's not a repair center. They've even said, we don't do this, we don't intend to do this, we don't do this at any Carvana location. So they're not doing repairs. They have their special area to do that in Flint, where they do all that reconditioning. Mr. Mantee.
Toyota used to do car repairs there all the time, and it never bothered anybody. I get Commissioner Grant's point, though, that someone could come in and say, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of investment, and then afterwards do all this investment. However, it is my understanding, as someone who used to own a business, that you have to annually fill out some kind of tax form for like the county or the city that says the total value of your equipment. Okay? So, a personal property tax. If they were to do this afterwards, I would hope the city would have the ability in the future to track that kind of thing as little red flags to say, hey, somebody just spent $2 million on personal property in the past year. It's gone up by $2 million. We should hit them with some art tax. Okay? Your concern, I share. I'm sorry about the other one.
Mr. Canigan.
That notwithstanding, I think once we take a vote, the planning commission, eyes wide open, is making a determination that we're okay with the dealership definition and those uses for which we don't need restrictions. So however the vote goes based on this motion, that will set the policy, our interpretation of this request. So it's not like they're pulling something over on us. We're aware of it. We heard what they're willing to do, and I'm sure if staff met with them and said, hey, you guys are a dealership, no problem, that's not even an issue, submit your site plan, they probably said, okay, we'll submit a site plan. But there was a question, and therefore they said, okay, we got a use question, so we got to make sure the planning commission is okay with this use. If it's something similar, not more objectionable, or you're a dealership. And we looked at it, at least the motion is, we looked at it, said, it's a dealership. It's a changing situation for the current market, but it's a dealership. And with all those conditions we allow under our ordinance to do those other things, the motion is indicating we're okay with it. And we don't feel we need to restrict it. They've made their representation, but we're aware of what we're voting on, from my standpoint, so.
Yeah, and that's the reason I left it out is I view them as a dealership, and we don't put this restriction on dealerships. I mean, it's not in the current ordinance. If they're considered a dealership, this wouldn't be a question.
And even from an economic development standpoint, I don't have a problem with greater flexibility for a property owner and investor to have flexibility in the use of the land for our tax base. So I don't see it as an objection. And they'll have to meet the other enforcement codes of our city in order to be a good neighbor.
All right, Mr. Brickner.
Right, personally, I don't care. But I usually try to follow ordinance. And, because I could see the city attorney making faces. No? Okay, so doesn't make a difference then, does it? I mean, they were willing to put the restrictions on themselves. That didn't bother me either. If they want to do it, that's fine. But I just don't want to do something that violates ordinance. The difference between a place that's what they want to be versus a actual true car dealership. So if there's no real big distinction between the two under our ordinance, then I really don't care. But if there is a distinction and they have to go they have to do more things if they want to be treated like a full-blown dealership, then I don't know that this is a proper way of handling it. That's the only question I have.
Chair, may I
Yes.
respond? So one item related to the auto repair, like auto repair is considered a incidental use, accessory use for a car dealership, traditional car dealership. But if it was to be doing like spray, like a spray booth with collision and that type of thing, that would kick into special approval required because there's a lot more potential nuisance hazards. And we have sections in our code that are pertaining to the painting and spraying of vehicles and other types of equipment. So
In that case, then, since we're treating this as a dealership, and a dealership would have to go through that, that would be no different than here.
So if they came back and said we wanted to,
They'd have to come to the city and ask for that use. If it's not permitted as a dealership,
yeah,
then, I'm not giving them the ability to do all these things. I'm not putting a restriction on anything that's outside of what the city ordinance. So if there's a city ordinance that says a dealership can't do spray booths without approval, then they'd have to come back to us.
And I guess to the extent Member Brickner's, through the chair, comment was, or question was directed to me, I guess I agree with that. I don't have a problem with the motion that's on the floor. I mean, I'm a lawyer. Somebody puts something on the table, I take it. So if somebody says, I'll take the restriction, I would take them up on the offer, but I get the conversation where people are saying we don't need to do that. So I'm fine with the motion. I don't think there's an issue of violating the ordinance, Member Brickner.
Okay, well, the one thing, since you raised the issue, and I know that Steve is looking, he doesn't care about the, doing some minor repair work, but also in paragraph number 3, it talks about engine rebuilding, mechanical repair, or major reconditioning will be conducted. So if you wanted to do the painting, the other stuff, you can leave that out of the thing, but wouldn't you want to keep them from doing engine repairs and mechanical repairs?
In my view, it's whatever dealer is permitted to do today.
Right.
So if a dealer is permitted to do that sort of stuff, then it's a dealership. If they're not allowed to do painting, then they're not allowed to do painting. I don't need to add that restriction.
Chair, one other question. I guess the site plan that's before you does not account for any of the repair work, like the floor plan, everything does not show any, painting, or not painting, but just body work and collision. Right. So I guess the question is, if they were to change and add that activity at a later point, would we require a new site plan to be approved?
And wouldn't that be normal? If today I am doing two things, and 5 years from now, I decide to expand my business, don't I have to come back here anyway and talk to you if I'm going to make a major change to the building?
I guess from my perspective through the chair, you can jump off that bridge when you get to it, yes.
So again, it's like we are trying to restrict their ability to manage their business. Where they are today, might not be where they want to be in 5 years. But why are we trying to restrict it out to say that now they got to jump through 18 hoops and rings of fire? How does that make us a friendly city to do business in?
In my opinion, I think that I'm differing from the maker and supporter of the motion in that my personal determination is that this is a similar and according to their own plan, no less offensive and clearly less offensive use than a car dealership. So for that reason, I am looking to permanently disable the space from being able to use environmentally unfriendly practices within that space and reduce the number of places where that work is done. We have made several changes to where dealerships are allowed, and we've made we've made a lot more restrictions on dealerships over the course of years than were originally chartered. So I don't think that this is it's offensive to have a different opinion and say, I don't feel like this is a dealership. I feel this is a new model car retailing center that is just about the sale of vehicles and the transaction, and not about the repair of vehicles, dealer service, or any of those other things. And they don't need that, and they haven't asked for it. They've voluntarily said that they don't need it and they don't want it, and that will travel with the project. So if they sell out later on and somebody else comes in and says, well, this is just an auto dealer, we'd like to reestablish, and we start just start remanufacturing engines in the back, and we're going to have a bump shop, and we're going to have all those things. That would be going back against the use that we're approving now and the idea and the new model that we're approving now. So for that reason, I have trouble supporting motion just for that reason. And I don't think that the end result is different one from the other. Whether we go, if those were conditions, whether we go by that, go one route or the other. If you apply those conditions, the result is the same. If we don't apply those conditions, the result is slightly different, and I believe slightly less desirable. That's my reasoning. Mr. Counigan.
Don't mean to prolong the debate. Certainly we'll find out where the commission is once we take the vote on that issue. I'm sure no offense is meant in terms of we were asked, is it a dealership or is it something else? And so we're adjudicating that issue. And from my standpoint, it's been a dealership. I like the fact it's been a dealership. New dealerships come in, they're environmentally friendly, they meet all the environmental codes, whatever. They're good investments in communities. Strategically, as a planner, as a city planner, as a planning commissioner, I'm happy with that use. It's been the past use. I see it as a future use. So giving that piece of property greater flexibility going forward, even though this proponent wanted something specific, I'm okay as a planning commissioner saying, okay, I'm so comfortable with that when they're gone 10 years from now. Hopefully not, but 20 years from now, or 30 years from now, I'm okay with that because I know there'll be refinements and improvements and whatever in terms of selling vehicles. So the debate has been good. And so it's just kind of just how you want to look at it. They've asked for something. We reacted to a question that was posed by staff. A motion's been made based on that. But we're also looking at the land, how it's been used. And, we agree to disagree that, we just have different views on it.
I guess I'll just add for myself. I am absolutely supportive of their business as the way they've proposed it and their business model as they proposed it for this site and for this use. And so I think that reasonable conditions that are compliant with the way that they want to use it are appropriate. And I think there are significant enough differences between a traditional dealership and this new model retailing center that it's important to recognize those differences and to establish the opportunity to set up a new type of model. Ms. Grant.
Aren't we just based, everything that we're voting on is based on this particular business, this Carvana, not a future business or someone that's gonna come in 5, 10? I mean, hopefully you are here 20, 30 years. And I do, as far as the business is fine, I do not agree with with the conditions. If we're not going to include some of these conditions, then I'm not gonna vote yes.
Yes. Can we call for the vote?
Call the question. Call the question. Please call the question. Yeah.
All right, in the matter of case SP 69-11-2025, motion by Mr. Simpson, seconded by Mr. Cownigan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. I'm sorry. Roll call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Treflet,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Grant,
No, if some of these conditions could not be added to the motion.
Lindquist,
No for reasons stated.
Ware,
Yes.
Conigan,
Yes.
Brickner,
Yes.
and Manti.
Yes.
You were the fourth vote, so it didn't.
So
Thank you.
it's 6-2.
Congratulations, motion passes.
Thank you very much. So from this point, we just deal administratively, get a final site plan and move forward.
With
as
staff,
usual.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Just don't make it 5 stories.
You too.
No elevators.
Anybody grilling? I need to be at somebody's house with a Mai Tai. Well, I can't have Mai Tais.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just.
All right, moving to the next item in the agenda, approval of the minutes from April 16th, 2026.
We can go.
Motion to approve the minutes from April 16th, 2026.
I second it.
Motion by Ms. Grant, seconded by Ms. Ware. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. And any nays? Minutes are approved. We have no more members of the public present, so we'll go past the public comment. I don't know if any commissioner or staff dare to make a comment at this point on the one-item day that took them out this long, but if anybody wants to step up and do it,
Diane does.
I'm sorry.
okay, seeing none.
Whoa, you're not looking up, man.
One staff comment, is that what you called for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's just to bring your attention to the 2 memorandums in the correspondence folder that are from the Carlisle Wortman. And this is just a preliminary, the next planning commission meeting will be a special study session beforehand. We don't have any items currently for the regular meeting, but the planning commission meeting in June?
Yes.
June will be a special study session to discuss our site plan review text amendments that we're proposing, as well as the overall zoning ordinance audit that Carlisle Wortman's been accomplishing. So I just want to bring those to your
So
attention.
that will be a study session before a regular meeting.
Yes, at 6 o'clock on,
You're feeding us.
yes,
We want real food, not pizza. I have a question. So is this in response to the conversation we had last month where we were kind of talking about having more education around, the process, how we do things, understanding, just like I was asking some clarity around being when it's right for the site plan or the land use. Does this address some of that or helps us with some of that?
the portion of the zoning ordinance that's the site plan review process is going to be a big amendment to our current ordinance, and that does address some of the items you're talking about as far as we'll be doing in association with the text amendment, a new development manual and all new applications that help our citizens who are applying to better understand what they need to, put into the site plans and that type of thing. I know last month we talked about the traffic impact studies, and we have not been able to get with engineering yet to kind of put together a presentation for planning commission for
help us
that,
understand
about how
that.
to interpret traffic impact studies, but it is related.
Okay, so the zoning ordinance audit, I guess I don't really have a question about the audit. I have more of a question of, is the zoning team, department or commission, going to do some kind of update based on the information they received from us with the master plan? Or did they already do it before the master plan was approved? Because this experience and a couple of others make me feel like we did our part, city council approved it, but maybe the zoning board still has to do something? No, they don't have to, they don't do, oh.
The ordinance doesn't go to
Maybe,
zoning.
Mike, you want to talk about the zoning audit a little bit?
Sure. I think, so this is one of the asks that council made of us when we started working with the city was to audit the zoning ordinance. And I think as part of that comprehensive audit, just our opinion about what the city could do to make the ordinance more user-friendly overall, among other things, I think part of the direction we got from council and staff was that they would like to start implementing some of those master plan recommendations. So I know
Okay.
that is on the table too. I think it'll be up to, in part, up to council for deciding when to
How
proceed
that
with what.
happens.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe it was something the zoning board was supposed to do. Gotcha, all right, cool.
I have a commissioner comment.
Sir, commissioner comment this way to the left.
Why did we get this? The Washington Township High Energy Intensive Development Ordinance, or is someone talking about putting a data center in town?
I'm not sure why that was in the
I
packet, but.
am not sure either. I apologize. The planning clerk put this in here, so I did not, I'm not sure where it came from.
It was also emailed to us. I
It was? Okay. Well, we'll find out more. I guess read it through. See what you think.
Yeah. So I will say, I have seen this ordinance making the rounds in a number of communities, actually. And without getting into the specifics of what's here, it's very detailed. I think the principle generally is a good idea. So in light of data center development and a lot of Michigan communities kind of being caught off guard with the new with that kind of development and all the concerns about water, noise, other environmental impacts, sort of response and solution to that has been to draft ordinance standards not only that address data centers, but high impact uses in general. So I think that's at least a good practice and philosophy that was a part of this particular ordinance. And I know for whatever reason, this Washington Township example has been something that's been on a lot of people's radar, so.
Well, if the council didn't ask us to look at something like that, so I actually went through it already, but the fact of the matter is it's really not set up for a community like ours. This is set, Washington Township's gonna have a lot more empty space than Farmington Hills does. So I didn't know that we were even, I was trying to figure out why did we get this, or is this a consideration of the council that they want us to look at it? If not, it's going in the envelope.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mr. Stimson.
I guess going back to today's subject, this is the third one of these we've had
Thank you very much.
in the last 3 or 4 years. There was one at the one behind Target. What?
Stepping stone.
Like a Carvana. So there was the old Chevy dealer behind Target, on Grand River in Middlebelt.
It was a stepping stone.
That was like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And then there's also the one at Grand River between Halsted and Haggerty, by the breakfast place, that had, what?
Oh, you're talking about?
Oh, by, the Breakfast Club.
Oh, okay.
The BMW place.
No, it actually is an office, or is part of a strip mall, and they took the back part of the parking. It's very small, but again, they were online sales only. That was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So this is the third one we've had, and there's at least one other, if not two other, used car dealerships that are vacant. So I would imagine that there might be more of them.
So then what you're saying is there should be a rule or a.
We-
or a
we
plan
should come
for
up with a-
online-only retailer sales.
If we want to
Which
look
are
at
not-
what
which
we
are
really
separate from
want, instead of
dealerships,
having the
traditional
debate
dealerships.
every time.
All right, this sounds like making
I
a
think
law.
we've converged here. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Oh, I so
Mr. Manti?
seconded. So seconded.
All in favor? Oh, sorry.